Gone with the Wind remains an iconic, albeit controversial film over 80 years after its 1939 release. Starring Hollywood legends Clark Gable and Vivien Leigh as Rhett Butler and Scarlett O'Hara, the on-screen chemistry between the leads charmed audiences. But behind the scenes, tensions brewed. Leigh strongly disliked kissing Gable due to his denture-related halitosis. Meanwhile, pervasive discrimination plagued black cast members like Hattie McDaniel. Join Facts First as we explore glimpses of the real drama that unfolded amongst the cast and crew while making this memorable movie. Vivien Leigh hated kissing Gable. Vivien Leigh's distaste for kissing her Gone with the Wind co-star Clark Gable was an openly discussed phenomenon on set, though never fully explained at the time. Many speculated it stemmed from her then-secret extramarital affair with Laurence Olivier, who spent months away from his wife during the epic film's lengthy production. However, Leigh directly attributed her aversion to Gable's poor oral hygiene and foul breath, which noticeably worsened throughout filming. He suffered from gum disease from a young age that left him with deteriorating oral health. By his 30s, the affliction had progressed severely, resulting in the loss of all his natural teeth. Dentures became a permanent fixture, but they were poorly made and ill-fitting. This led to continual issues with halitosis, as well as an acute sensitivity and self-consciousness about his smile during romantic scenes that required kissing. The foul stench emanating from Gable's mouth was a constant problem for Leigh during their periodic love scenes as Scarlett and Rhett. She often gagged while tasting his unpleasant breath, sourced from the dirty, improperly sealed dentures. Between takes, Leigh could be seen hurriedly scrubbing her mouth and swishing mouthwash, hoping to remove the lingering taste and smell. As weeks of filming passed, Gable's oral condition worsened. His dentures became looser and less able to contain the odor of decay and infection underneath. Leigh's visible grimace and repulsed facial expressions whenever the script called for a kiss provided comic relief to the cast and crew who would regularly bet on her reaction. In interviews shortly after wrapping, Leigh bluntly stated that kissing Gable for the camera held no intrinsic appeal or romance due to the overpowering scents emanating from his mouth. While remaining gracious about his dental limitations, she was clearly relieved the intimate scenes were permanently behind her. Gable's relationship with Hattie McDaniel. Amidst the widespread racism on Gone with the Wind, Clark Gable and Hattie McDaniel found an unlikely alliance that sustained them through the production's many hardships. While segregationist rules officially forbade close association between black and white cast members, Gable openly eschewed such bigotry. He regularly socialized with McDaniel off-set and supported her with humor when tensions ran high. Their unlikely friendship began with McDaniel's stellar audition that secured her the role of Mammy. Gable recognized her immense talents even in the early read-throughs and screen tests. As filming got underway in mid-1939, Gable sought McDaniel out to share laughs and actively include her in cast conversations, to the shock of others adhering to Jim Crow norms. Between lengthy takes under the blistering Atlanta sun, they bonded through lighthearted pranks. One of Gable's favorite jokes was to secretly pour alcohol into McDaniel's iced tea from his own flask, waiting with barely concealed delight for her discovery. Her initially puzzled, then outraged reactions provided mirth not just for Gable, but their surrounding castmates as well. Those brief moments of levity were indispensable for McDaniel, one of the only black people on a segregated set, often struggling under insults from racist extras. Despite their evident on-set camaraderie, friends and colleagues noted tensions emerging later in filming. As conditions worsened and segregationist punishments intensified, McDaniel came to resent that Gable didn't use his star power sooner to force meaningful changes. She felt her friendship exploited rather than a relationship between equals. This resentment lingered long after wrap, even as Gable staunchly defended McDaniel's right to attend premieres and awards ceremonies despite Southern bigotry. By story's end, their friendship embodied the complex contradictions and personal sacrifices required of black entertainers in Jim Crow America. Segregation and controversy around the film. From the moment production commenced on Gone with the Wind in mid-1939, The film faced accusations of enabling the very racism its black cast judiciously navigated. The source material remained a target of anti-prejudice activists like the NAACP, which condemned Margaret Mitchell's novel for its unabashed use of racial slurs and cheerfully subordinate depictions of enslaved Africans that dodged discussing the true brutality of American slavery. Producer David O. Selznick was no stranger to such criticisms, having engaged in protracted meetings with NAACP leadership to assuage calls for an outright boycott. He pledged to thoughtfully revise questionable components through consultations with historians. In reality, Selznick held fast to most of the book's worrisome aspects to placate Southern financial backers whose support proved vital. Scenes featuring characters ubiquitously dropping the N-word remained, while the humiliations of bondage were swept to ambiguous smiles and obedient deference from black characters. Even major plot lines portraying rebellious slaves facing grotesque torture were excised for length rather than to risk inflaming audiences. In hindsight, this self-censorship only amplified accusations that the film normalized racist oppression through acts of complacent omission. Off-screen, the production also contributed to injustices through widespread segregation policies that pervaded daily life for black cast and crew. They were barred from cast lodgings and required to use segregated amenities on set despite proven health hazards. The psychological toll compounded physical risks, prefiguring lifelong traumas that followed stars like McDaniel and shaped how she remembered her landmark role. Legacy and impact. Nearly a century after its monumental Hollywood debut, Gone with the Wind continues captivating global audiences while retaining controversy as one of American cinema's most debated landmarks. Its technical accomplishments broke box office records that endured decades while sweeping the inaugural Oscar ceremony. The film introduced iconic characters and quotes permeating cross-cultural recognition worldwide. But discussion also persists around racist stereotypes and omissions that unintentionally reinforced oppressive systems its pioneering black cast bravely navigated. Hattie McDaniel endured unforgettable indignities that left scars. While leaving no biological descendants, her legacy inspired continued study by later generations, addressing cinema's role in social movements through her barrier-breaking performance. Now it's time to hear from you. What was the most surprising part of this story? Let us know in the comments section below.